Good morning, everybody. We are in John 19, verse 19 this morning. And mildly distracted. We got a puppy. It's Princess. Princess is very nice, but she likes the cow in my Bible. So I'm just gonna... I have a stick here. She's been chewing on the stick. All right, so... John 19:19. Now Pilate wrote a title and put it on the cross, and the writing was, Jesus of Nazareth, the King of the Jews. Then many of the Jews read this title, for the place where Jesus was crucified was near the city, and it was written in Hebrew, Greek, and Latin. Therefore the chief priests of the Jews said to Pilate, do not write the King of the Jews, but he said, I am the King of the Jews. Pilate answered, what I have written, I have written. So, often when a person was crucified, what would happen is they would write the crime of the person on a plaque and place it on the crucifix. So this was a very normal custom, and the intent was to let the passerbys know what the person was being crucified for. And the whole idea of crucifixion was to scare people, to frighten them, to shock them so that they would never commit the same crime. Maybe some people remember the old movie Spartacus, right? At the end of the movie there, you see the road lined with people crucified from that slave uprising. And that's a true story that movie was based off of. And that's what they would do, is they would line the road with people being crucified. And Rome did it so that no one would ever want to commit the same crime. And so that is why they would write the crime on a plaque on the crucifix, so that people would know what not to do. And so at this point, 3 people were going out to be crucified, Jesus and 2 others. They would have gone out the Damascus gate on the north side of the city, and really not all that far outside the gate is at the foot of the hill of Golgotha, that they would have those crucifixes placed. We have so many pictures, so many movies, so many churches that have put crosses up in paintings or on the wall. We get so many different views of what this would look like. In reality, the crucifix, the cross that Christ hung on, probably would have been, 8 feet tall max. You have to think about it that the point wasn't this gigantic cross. So often in the movies and in other places, we see these crosses that are just huge, and in drawings and in artwork, these big things. But, they weren't going to go through the extra effort to find extra long pieces of wood. They weren't going to waste wood, that's for sure. It's really hard to lift someone 15 feet into the air. But in reality, the cross was designed to actually keep the person very close to the ground. You see, for multiple reasons. One is that when people were crucified, very often the wild animals would come and chew and eat away at their feet and at their legs. That was part of the torture. That was part of the cruelty of crucifixion. Another reason why they weren't supposed to be way up in the air, but actually much closer to eye level, is they wanted the passerbys to see them right there face to face. It was supposed to strike more terror and fear into the people who were passing by, and by putting that up close and personal, it made it so that it had a better impact on the people who were moving along. I was going to flip over to Luke's gospel real quick. It is in there where we read about Simon the Cyrenian, who carries the cross for Jesus as they go up there. So he carries up the cross, and it talks about the other criminals. I mean, I could go through all the Gospels and start piecing them together, but I'm hoping to just go through another Gospel and and then we'll be able to piece it together each time we pass through these points. But it talks about the passerbys. And so we know people were passing by up close and personal with Jesus on this cross, and there in 3 different languages, in Hebrew, the local language, Greek, which is the worldwide language, and Latin, which was the Roman language, all the main languages that needed to be displayed were displayed, so the point would get across. The Jewish leaders didn't like that he wrote King of the Jews, but he said, hey, and this is kind of Pilate jabbing back at them, this is what you guys said, he made himself to be king. They said, well, we said he made himself to be king. He's like, well, I'm just writing, his crime is being the King of the Jews. Verse 23, then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made 4 parts, to each soldier a part, and also the tunic. Now the tunic was without seam and woven from the top in one piece. They said therefore among themselves, let us not tear it, but cast lots for it, whose it shall be, that the scripture might be fulfilled, which says, they divided my garments among them, and my clothing they cast lots. Therefore the soldiers did these things. And so Jesus would have had probably 5 pieces of clothing, and they just passed them out. So a group of soldiers would have been the 4 soldiers. And so each soldier got 1 piece. But then they had this last thing, the outer garment, the tunic. This was that valuable piece of clothing that would be used as a blanket at night. There's many things when Jesus says, and they ask you for your inner coat, give them that outer tunic as well. In the Sermon on the Mount, it's the one that you were not allowed to keep overnight as collateral back in Deuteronomy, maybe Leviticus or both. I don't know. Can't remember that one off the top of my head, but I know it's in there that you can't keep that overnight. So it's a special piece of clothing. And so it said in the scriptures, it said in Psalm 22:18 that they were going to gamble, cast lots, throw some dice to see who's going to get that outer garment. Now, let's do 25, 6, and 7, and we'll call that a day. It says, now there stood by the cross of Jesus, his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene. When Jesus therefore saw his mother, and the disciple whom he loved standing by, he said to his mother, woman, behold your son. And he said to his disciple, behold your mother. And from that hour that disciple took her to his home. This is probably the final and most clear statement that Joseph was gone, that Mary, he was gone, he had passed away at some point, more than likely wasn't alive any time during Jesus' earthly ministry, and so Jesus wanted to take care of his mom. So, not in a spiritual way, not in some weird reverent way per se, but just taking care of his mom and making sure she had someone to look out for her. He looks to John, and tradition has it that she follows John up to Ephesus, where John would later become the pastor in Ephesus. We see Mary, the wife of Clopas. Now Clopas, I think many believe, if you turn back to Luke chapter 24, on the road to Emmaus, it says, then there's one whose name was Cleopas answered. And so some people wonder if this is a translational thing, where if it's Cleopas or Clopas, if it's the same person or not. So one of the disciples, though, his wife was there. And it also says his mother's sister. So verse 25 says that his mother's sister sat there at the foot of the cross. I didn't prepare for this, but if I flip through all of these Gospels as fast as I can, let's see here. So we had his mother's sister mentioned in John. If I flip back to Luke, oh no, not Luke, Mark, got to pass by Luke, into Mark, let's see what it says. Aha! And there were also Mark 15:40 There were also women looking from afar, among whom which were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James the Less and of Joses, and Salome. Okay, so there's someone by the name of Salome there. And then we have Matthew 27:56. Matthew 27:56 says, among who were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joses, and the mother of Zebedee's sons. When you put these three verses together, you've got to combine all three Gospels. We put together that the mother of Zebedee's sons was named Salome, who was Mary's sister. If you put all that stuff together, that would mean that Mary's sister Salome was married to Zebedee. Zebedee's sons was James and John. That would have made James and John, the sons of thunder, Jesus' cousins. So it is interesting, and it does open up some insight in other Gospels where Salome approaches Jesus and says, my Lord, let my son, sit at your right hand and your left hand. Oh, and he says, hey, how do you know the drink that I'm going to drink, the baptism I'm going to be baptized with? And so there's some interesting ties in here, but it would make it seem that they were related to Jesus. And maybe because they were distant relatives, half relatives, right? We see John, who wrote this gospel. So this is John, the author we're reading. He was so near to Jesus. He's called John the Beloved for a reason. It is him who, as he laid his head back upon Jesus' chest there at the Last Supper, they were close. They were intimate friends. And yeah, paints a beautiful picture. But there's some extra information, probably new for a few of you. We're going to continue with the next 3 verses tomorrow, where Jesus gives up his spirit. And we'll learn some interesting and cool stuff. And we'll try and look, maybe, if I get time to think about it, the sayings from the cross. He says 7 things from the cross. And I always think it's fun to try and put them in chronological order, which is not always easy to do. But I think it's beautiful when you see them laid out, pulling the Gospels together to get that complete message. So we'll continue the Passion tomorrow. God bless you guys, and have a great day. Say goodbye, Princess. Princess is sleeping. Tired puppy. All right. See you guys.